Welcome to Hey, it's Carly Rae's Book Club. This is Book Hour where authors will talk their latest novels, reveal their writing process, and walk us through a day in their life when writing. I'm your host, Carly Rae. Today, bestselling author Sharon Cooper joins us to chat about her latest book, Business Not as Usual. We'll find out what inspired her to bring to life protagonist Dreamy Daniels, if Sharon plays the lottery, and whether this book has her signature humor and happily ever after charm. We'll find out more right after this. Welcome, Sharon. I'm so excited to have you on Book Hour.
Thank you, Carly Rae. I'm excited. I'm nervous, but I'm excited.
Yeah. Well, we're really excited to have you. Tell us where you're joining us from.
I'm in Atlanta, Georgia.
Is it sunny today?
Huh?
Is it sunny today?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Sunny and warm.
Yeah.
Yesterday was 80. I don't think it's as hot as that. But,
yeah. Well, Business Not as Usual is your latest novel out. Tell viewers more about it and if this is another book with your signature humor and happily ever after charm.
This was a little different for me. This is my debut romantic comedy. I usually have humor in every book, but this one's a lot more, some laugh out loud moments. It's a fun story. The main character is Dreamy Daniels, and she's eccentric, she's outgoing, just loves life. And she's had a couple of rough spots, but she's one of these people, get knocked down, jump back up, and just kind of keep it rolling. And the story opens with her having just quite a few issues, just life, adulting, basically. And one of the issues big issues is that she was dumped by her boyfriend, who was an attorney, and he had dumped her in public. So that didn't help at all. And so for a while, she was a little down, and then she decides, okay, I'm going to just work on myself, later for guys. I'm done with them for a while. I'm just going to accomplish my goals and just, try to enjoy life, because that's just her motto. She's like sunshine. And of course, the moment she decides she's done with men, this great guy comes along, but she's like, nope, not going there. And she finds out he's wealthy, where she's like opposite, one of the jokes is that she's, living in a house that's like an earthquake away from crumbling around her. And yeah, she's just had quite a few, she's had quite a few hard knocks. But I loved writing her because she's just full of energy and just doesn't seem to let anything get her down, And,
yeah. Now, is she based on anyone you know?
Not 100%. Some of her quirks is based on a friend of mine who passed away a few years ago. She was like the life of every party. She's the kind of person will be at work. She'll go to work with maybe a blonde wig on, and then go home for lunch and come back with a curly red wig, or just you just never knew what to expect, And so she's loosely based on her. And then Carter, he's her love interest, and he's like opposite. It's all about work for him. He's very serious, very rigid. He's comes from an extremely wealthy family, and his father is like a very famous actor. And then Carter is wealthy just even on his own as a venture capitalist. So their differences are noticeable immediately.
Yeah. Now, what inspired you to create this opposites attract couple? Did you always want to write a rom-com story?
I had never thought about writing a rom-com. Some author friends, we were having lunch, and I was kind of tossing around this idea that I had. You should never toss around an idea around author friends, because before you know it, you're writing a few books. And it was something they said that made me think, oh, I hadn't thought about making it funny. But yeah, so no, I hadn't thought about that. And I really do like opposites attract or friends to lovers. And yeah, I guess there's so much you can do with those types of themes. So yeah.
Now, do you have an all-time favorite chapter in Business Not as Usual?
I do. I have actually. There's two that's probably tied for first. There's one involving a wig incident, and then there's another one where Dreamy actually does win the lottery. And it's a little over the top, but it was so much fun to write.
Now, have you ever won the lottery?
I have not. I've dreamed about it. That's part of why, I was like, wonder what would happen if I wrote a character who played the lottery and won,
Yeah.
And so I just thought about how I think of how I dream about it, and then just kind of, really kind of put it over the top a little. Some ideas over the top.
Yeah, well, I love the cover as well. It's great. It's vibrant and fun. Were you involved in the design process?
I was. And the process, they asked me who did I have in mind, when I was writing the story, who was my inspiration. And Tiffany Haddish. It's like all the way through the book, I could totally picture her as Dreamy. And the guy, for some reason, I just cannot think of his name at the moment. Laz Lorenzo. Is that his name? Anyway, I can't remember his name, but Tiffany Haddish was at the forefront of every scene, every funny moment, because that's how I picture her, as just kind of, she has her, probably like the rest of us have our issues or whatever. But, she just seems like a happy-go-lucky kind of person. Like, hey, it is what it is. This is what you get,
Yeah.
This is who I am.
Yeah. Now, what about the title? Was the book always called Business Not as Usual?
No. My very first, I changed the title a couple of times while I was writing it. The one I thought I was going to go with and thought the publishers would go with was Chasing the Dream. Dreamy.
Oh, yeah.
The lottery. Yeah.
So, and then they changed it.
It didn't work out that way.
Yeah. Now, did you get like a list and say, hey, these are the ones we're going to change it to?
I gave them a list as per their request. Like, what else you got?
It's like, wait, that was my only one.
Actually, it was originally like, you need more. And then I think it was my agent, Melissa. I think she's the one that actually, she's like, what do you think about this? I'm almost sure she's the one that came up with the title. I'm like, oh, I kind of like that, so.
Yeah, it's a fun title. I like it too. It's catchy.
Oh, I'm glad you like it.
Yeah. Well, anything else you want to share about Business Not as Usual with viewers?
It's Business Not as Usual. It's a fun story, a light read. I'm hoping that what people will take away, that even though a lot of us have differences, there's so many things about us that are the same, or just to, not judge a book by its cover, so to speak. Dreamy at first sight, she's kind of a hot mess, but she has such a beautiful spirit. And so I'm hoping, that'll resonate with readers, that, just because a person looks a certain way or acts a certain way doesn't necessarily mean that's all that's to them, that there's so much more. And economic differences, it might be some economic differences, but even so, or was that social economic, financial differences between the characters? I think the characters learn that, they both have issues outside of their differences, and similarities for that matter. Yeah. So I just hope people enjoy it, just the fun of it.
Yeah, and have the laugh out loud moments.
Yes, because we need a lot more of that, I think, in our lives.
Yeah. And in books, I feel like too. I like the books where you find yourself laughing with the characters.
Yeah, exactly. I've caught myself doing that and then looking around and see if anybody's looking at me.
Yeah, yeah, you're in
Like,
public.
"Damn, think I'm crazy."
Well, there you have it. You heard Sharon talk all things business not as usual. Stay tuned because when we come back, we'll find out more about Sharon's writing process. Welcome back to Book Hour. I'm your host, Carly Rae, here with best-selling author Sharon Cooper. Now, Sharon, walk us through a day in your life when writing one of your books. Do you have like a certain spot you write in, or do you like work like writing in coffee shops?
Before 2020, I loved writing in coffee shops. The majority of the time, I write in my home office. My process, I think, is different every day. Sometimes it starts with a cup of coffee. Sometimes it starts with hot tea. And recently it started with hot chocolate. But yeah, that part varies. As far as my actual writing process, I usually start with an outline. I'm a plotter and I do character sketches. I try to learn as much as possible about my characters, everything from their favorite color to, if they're a pessimist or optimist. Try to just kind of, the first week or two of planning, just really, try to get to know the characters because that's really what's going to really drive a story. Well, hopefully, you hope that it drives the story. And
Now,
then, yeah.
well, yeah, no, keep going.
Yeah, and then after I outline, usually I do a fairly detailed outline, but then with each scene, I do smaller, simple outlines, things I definitely want in the scene. What I need to happen, sometime in between the start of the scene and the end of the scene. And then yeah.
So do you already know like the end of the book, what's going to happen when you're starting to write the beginning of the book?
When I outline, I think I know the end of it. There, especially lately, maybe I'm becoming a little bit of a pantser because a few of my stories, I outline a certain ending, and a few have changed dramatically, because as you're, I could say walking through the story, but as you're working through the story, sometimes the characters change in a way where your ending doesn't work. So the good thing is if I have it outlined, it's easy for me to kind of tweak or maybe move some things around. But most of the time I try to know the ending, but every now and then I'm surprised too.
Now, did you already know Dreamy's ending in this?
I did.
Okay.
I did. Yeah. The good thing with romance, it's going to be a happily ever after. It's just, how you get there. But yeah, I knew hers.
Yeah. Well, you've written over 20 novels. How do you keep your storyline and characters fresh and new? Like, what inspires you to create such different and dynamic characters?
What inspires me to create fresh and new? I think I have a really active active imagination. Sometimes that's not good, but it really does pay off that, I was like, I wonder what if, and that's usually how it starts. What if this, or I hear about a really cool career. I'm like, I should give my character, maybe they can be former CIA or, whatever, and then it just kind of snowballs from there. Or somebody will say something. My sister, I shouldn't even probably put this out there because it probably make me look, ridiculous. But I remember this was years ago. We were saying something and it was a funny situation. And then I had it all wrong. And then my sister whispers to me, she's like, how does it feel? I was like, how does what feel? That foot in your mouth, And so, of course, I had to make a story around that, so yeah.
So it's those little moments.
Yeah, exactly. And it usually always starts with a word or, sitting in the airport and you see somebody walk past you and like, I wonder what if, So.
And little do they know they have a book about it.
Actually have a shirt. It's like, be careful what you say to me. You might end up in my next story.
There you go. And now,
That's true.
yeah, I know. I'll be reading your scenes now, and I'm going to be like, I wonder if this happened.
Yeah.
Now, did you always want to be a published author?
No,
No?
I didn't. Yeah, writing or being an author never crossed my mind actually. And I just really kind of, I won't say I stumbled into it, but yeah, I kind of stumbled into it. Yeah, my work life or career I was a construction worker. I was a sheet metal worker for years. And then I during my apprenticeship, I also attended school to get my business degree. So I've, have had a couple of sole proprietors. And I didn't think about being a writer basically, because that's a whole nother story. It wasn't until my first attempt at writing came when my family owned a pretty large childcare center when I lived in Wisconsin. And the kids, anything, I mean, working at a childcare center could give you a library full of books, basically. And so one of the things where you always had to remind kids to wash their hands. So after I left Wisconsin, I moved to San Diego, and I was like, oh, I should write a children's book out of nowhere. Just kind of like, oh, I should write a children's book. And I entitled it, But I Washed My Hands Yesterday. And so it's such a cute story with germs and everything. And I had met an author out there, and she kind of gave me some tips on writing and how to find someone to actually publish it and things of that nature. I probably didn't look that hard either, but I didn't find anybody to publish it. But then she said, this might make a fun play. So I was like, oh, that could be fun, because I could totally picture it. And so I turned the story into a play, and it sold like within a week of me sending it out. And that was my first attempt at trying to write. With the romance, at that time, I was devouring romance novels. Anything I could put my hands on, I could read easily 3 or 4 a week. And which probably says a lot. I probably didn't really have a life if I had time to read that much. And then it was like one day I was like, probably like many, I was like, well, I should try to write one. And then it just kind of, when I moved to Atlanta, I found Georgia romance writers, and I started attending their monthly meetings just to learn the craft, basically. It's different. You say you want to be a writer, but it's so much involved. So much we don't know. And I think with each book, I learned something else. And that's just how it, met some fabulous authors. And it just kind of went from there. And before I knew it, almost 10 years, in a few weeks, it'll be 10 years when I published my first romance.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's been a fun ride.
Yeah.
It's been a fun ride.
Now, what was it like? Like, did you query to like get an agent, or what was that process like for you?
Nah. Because I don't think I'd be good with rejection. Although I did send it out. I think I sent it out to I did. I sent it out to 1 or 2 publishers or editors, because I was attending, I do remember, I was attending a conference, and they have an opportunity where you can pitch a story. Mm-hmm. Anyway, they weren't interested. But being a part of Georgia Romance Writers, I met people who were self-publishing. And the more I learned about that, I'm like, oh yeah, that's more up my alley. I can do what I want, how I want, as fast as I want, or as slow as I want. And so I actually started as a self-published author a couple of years, not even a couple of years, because I published my first romance in the end of April of 20, I don't know. It's been 10 years basically. And then in June, an editor emailed me, and a Harlequin editor emailed me and asked if I had ever considered writing traditionally. And it's like, okay, first I had to make sure it wasn't a joke, It's like, who does that?
You have to verify the email.
Yeah. And it was like so flattering. And she said she was hanging on Barnes and Noble and ran across my book and just wanted to kind of see where I was at. It was It was mixed for a great story, basically. And then it just kind of went from there. That was why I tried. So I was an indie author, but then I did sign a contract to write a couple of traditionally published books. But the majority of my books, maybe like 28 of my books are indie published, and then maybe 5 or 6 are traditionally published, something like that. And so, yeah, so I didn't have to query, but then with the rom-com, because I'm so used to doing my own thing with the indie, that I did query a couple of agents just to kind of see if anybody was interested. I had a couple of interested, which was fabulous. And before I knew it, within a couple of months, I had a contract to write.
That's really awesome.
Yeah, it's a really cool story,
Yeah. Now, when can viewers expect more books from you after Business Not As Usual? Are you going to have like a romance coming out?
Oh, yeah. I usually try to publish 3 or 4 books a year. So after Business Not As Usual, I have romantic suspense coming out in July, Committed. That's an interracial romantic suspense. And it's part of one of my best-selling series, Atlanta's Finest series. And then after that, in August, I have romantic suspense coming out called Casino Heat.
Yeah, I like the title. Now, are these ones like self-published or indie published?
Those, both of those are self-published. Or indie published. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited to read those. I haven't read too many romantic suspense, so.
Yeah, romantic suspense is my favorite genre to read and write. So yeah, I probably have more romantic suspense than anything. Yeah.
Well, Sharon, thank you so much for joining Book Hour. Before I let you go, tell viewers where they can find you on social media.
Okay, I'm on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. You can find everything about me, pretty much everything about me, on my website at sharoncooper.net. And that it links to all of my social media also. Yeah. So sharoncooper.net.
Okay, well, there you have it. Sharon's handles are also in the description below. Sharon, thank you so much for joining Book Hour. And for those watching, I hope you have a great day.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thank you, Carly Rae.